Good day, folks. Today we're talking about the weird and crazy laws of Malaysia. And what better place to film this than at the National Mosque of Malaysia? So, yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so some of these are going to sound a little bit more ridiculous than others. I'd say the list ranges from a little bit weird to absolutely ridiculous. Also depending on, your upbringing. Westerners might find some of these a little bit more out there than people who grew up here. Might think it's, very normal. So the first one has to do with naming your child, naming your baby. And so the things that you cannot name them after is colors, animals, fruits, vegetables, natural elements, numbers, food, adjectives, and Japanese cars. So no little Honda, no little yellow. You can't name your kid any of this stuff. Which probably is... Now, okay, I want to say you should be able to name your kid whatever you want. Like in my head, yeah, it's freedom in a sense. But also, it's been quite a new thing, a new trend in New York, in the US. That's like people kind of taking on nicknames, choosing names that are not the names their parents gave them and going by that name. And like really choosing names that sound, for lack of a better word, I'd say stupid, and some of these things would fall under one of these categories a lot of the times, we'll say. I was a tattoo artist, I should say, and I would get a lot of requests from people, like in my booking form. And in the first and last name, sometimes they would throw something really crazy in there, like whatever it is. Maybe I can't think of an example, but it would always stick out like, okay, this is not a real name. This is not their real name. And I have to address them by this when I send the email because that's what they want to be called, It kind of goes in line with like identifying people, whatever gender they want to be. It's like they took it a step further. It's like whatever name they want to be called, you have to abide by that. That's their choice. And so that's the like mindset of a lot of the youth like going on right now, where they're choosing names. It feels like it's almost intentionally to spark up like a little bit of controversy, but I'm sure it's not. I'm sure that it just bothers me more than it bothers some other people. But yeah, this law really reminded me exactly of that. Obviously we don't have any laws in place about what you can name your kid. Do I think it should be an actual law against the law to name your kid that? I don't, but do I think it makes some sense for the sake of like society and things sounding relatively formal and not insane? Yeah, I do. I do, that's my thoughts on that. I will say, I'm going to go down the list of these laws, and I want you to let me know in the comments if any of these stick out to you. I want to know your thoughts on it. If you think it's crazy, if you think these are justified, if you think they all make sense. I would imagine the Malaysians would think more of them make sense because they grew up here. But I know you guys will not think they all do. So yeah, I'm curious what you guys think. I feel like the next one is going to be a little bit controversial, and that has to do with public acts of indecency or public displays of affection. So even just for example, kissing in a park in a way that bothers somebody can land you in prison for up to 3 months. Now, I don't know how strongly this is enforced or how often this kind of thing actually happens, but there are reports of it happening, several times, many times in the past couple of years. So I don't know, what they constitute going over the line of public displays of affection. I don't know if it's just like a simple kiss, probably not like a peck on the lips, but probably like a full-blown makeout session happening in public is probably grounds for, I say especially if somebody records it on their phone or something and then goes and reports it, grounds for up to 3 months in prison. Now, that's obviously wild from a Western standpoint. Again, I see some sense in it because when there are people in public, whether in the US or anywhere, who are really going overboard with the affection and the where it's like, okay, get a room, folks. You know, it's disgusting. It's like it can be disgusting. You know, depending on how they're doing it, it can be gross. And so, yeah, I understand it, right? But I think, you know, it's especially coming more from like a Muslim standpoint, a religious standpoint of decency, and like, yeah, it's a big no-no, right? So yeah, here it's a much different thing. It's actually punishable, and yeah, a little bit wild to me that you can go to prison for it. I don't think that it should ever warrant going to prison. You know, that's a little bit crazy to me, in my opinion. But yeah, that's just how it goes. That's the rule here. So I have been here for probably 2.5 months or so, and I've definitely not seen any public displays of affection whatsoever. I haven't seen any of it. Nothing. So much as people, yeah, obviously kissing. It's just, I don't see it. You know, you don't even really see people hugging in a like affectionate, loving way. That's not just like a friendly hello kind of way. You will see holding hands just amongst friends. Like, okay, I will see some tourists holding hands, but for the most part, the only people I see holding hands are like 2 females here, like who seem, it's like a friend thing, I suppose. You know, it sticks out to me because I don't know, it's not something I used to see, or I'm used to seeing, but here I've seen it now many times where there's 2 females holding hands walking down the street, but it's very clearly not in a like sexual way, like they're not together or something. So it's just like friends, but that to me is different. It's not something that I've seen much in my life. So I don't know if that's a Malaysian thing. I don't know exactly what that is. You know, so I don't take it too seriously. It doesn't matter to me, but it always sticks out to me because I've seen it now a good 10 times here or more, where there's just two women holding hands walking who look like friends, you know. So I don't know what that is, but regardless, yeah, definitely don't come over here and start kissing your significant other unless you want to get landed behind bars. This next one, to my understanding, is illegal in most places. It's technically illegal in most places. At least it is back home. And so, yeah, jaywalking. You know, walking across the street without a proper pedestrian zebra crossing. You know, just kind of going across the street. You guys have seen me do it many times in my videos. It's very much something back in New York that people do. It's a New York thing. It's a bit of a city thing. It's like you find yourself in many scenarios where you have to do it. And in Malaysia, I find that you actually need to do it much more often than anywhere else in the world that I have been, for the most part. You know, maybe some like rural parts of Indonesia, stuff like that. There's, you know, you're not finding crossings, or most parts of like Indonesia. Places like this, yeah, you have to do it as well. But here specifically, like, you see people do it every couple of seconds. You see people jaywalking because you have to, because if you try to get from point A to point B without jaywalking, and you were to seek out a pedestrian crossing for every single place you needed to go, it would take you all day and night to get to one place, or sometimes it wouldn't be possible. And so, yeah, this law as well, I don't know how heavily is enforced here. I don't think, to me, it was always something back home that like nobody would ever get in trouble for. And you know, it was kind of like a joke where, you know, you could jaywalk in front of a police officer and it's not, you know, it's not a problem. At least in New York City. Maybe there are some states where, I don't know, where they take it, where they're power tripping especially, and they decide to make an example and be like, hey, Don't you want to wait for the green light and then maybe write you a ticket? I don't know. I'm sure it happens, but typically it's not something that happens, right? So yeah, I wonder, because people do comment sometimes. I've received comments that literally say like, why are you crossing there? It's illegal. Or like, it's illegal to cross there. It's illegal to walk there. And like, I guess there's some people who are just a stickler for the rules. But typically I'm never crossing somewhere or walking somewhere that I don't have to. You know, I'm not doing it just to be, you know, like defiant against the rules, something like that. No, it's because, you know, you just kind of have to. You really have to. And then as you do it more and more, because you have to, it just becomes something you do. It becomes something that if you see an opportunity to cross, or say it's late at night, there's no cars and it's red, you just cross. But many times I'm waiting there, or I'm there and I see people waiting and there's no cars around, there's nobody around, but it's red. And so the people are waiting, usually because they just aren't sure. They don't, you know, they don't want to get in trouble. Then if I cross in that moment, they follow right behind me. Or if they see one person cross, if it just takes one person first, then they're happy to do it immediately. So yeah, I think it's something that people just don't know. They're afraid, you know, they don't want to get in trouble for it, right? But it's like, follow the leader. If other people are doing it, most people feel okay doing it. Or if you're really used to the location, you live here, it's like, okay, you're comfortable doing it. You know that you see people doing it every day. It's like, okay, that's just how the city works, right? But it's the law, folks, it's the law. So the next one is actually about dogs. As I say that, there's this cat that's been following me around here, like rubbing up against my leg. Oh, and I keep accidentally like stepping on the cat because I'm just trying to walk around and make the video. And then he goes away for a moment. I look up at the camera and then he's right at me again. Anyways. So if you are in public and your dog starts running towards somebody in any way, it's a crime. It's a crime and you can be charged a fine. You know, you will not go to prison for this one, but it's a 100 ringgit fine. So a $20 US fine. Now, nobody likes the idea of a dog getting off the leash or not being on a leash and running after somebody. It's not a good thing. You know, you have to keep your dog in check. Should it be the law? Should you get fined for it? This one, maybe yeah, because then it will make you train your dog properly, or it will make you less likely to go out there and keep your dog off the leash if that's going to happen. You know, and if it just does happen by chance, if your dog doesn't usually do that, but it just happens, yeah, that sucks. But maybe then you have to kind of just accept it and you take the fine, right? If you get caught for it. And so I don't see anything really wrong with this one or too weird. Now, one thing I only just found out today, and that's because I saw some of the comments from one of my recent videos where I was in a park and I was like, why don't I ever see dogs? Like, why are there no dogs here? No dogs. You know, it started to feel really weird, and I was like, okay, of course, back in the US, in a park like this, there'd be dogs everywhere. And like, I see some of the comments like, oh, that's because it's you know, like, people are Muslim, like we're not allowed to have dogs. And I was like, huh? Ooh, huh? So I immediately have research, of course, and I see, yeah, dogs are haram. Dogs are not allowed within Muslim religion, period. You cannot have a pet dog. And the reasoning, they're considered dirty. You know, if a dog licks something, it's tarnished, it's dirty. It must be sanitized and cleaned. Okay, now this one, maybe again, controversial, right? Because us Westerners love dogs. We put dogs on a pedestal. We almost put dogs in the same plane as like humans, as other people, you know, which may be taking it too far. Some people go way too far with it, but yeah, that's just kind of how we do things. That's how we grow up. Most of us grow up with dogs as pets. And so for me, I love dogs and I grew up with dogs. And so the idea of not being allowed to have one, yeah, that's bad for me. That's terrible, right? Now I understand that it's religion and it's just how it goes. I understand that dogs aren't always the most clean, and of course a dog's mouth, is not the most clean. Again, us crazy white folks or whatever, crazy Westerners tend to let a dog lick our face, a random dog. Maybe not a street dog, of course, but like, somebody else's dog. If we'll bend down and pet the dog, and if the dog licks the face, it's like, it's almost cute. It's just like, I think we just accept it. But I don't know, to have it be a rule, a law in that way where it's forbidden, for me it would suck just because I'm a dog lover. But it doesn't apply to me, of course, so it doesn't affect me either. Of course, it would be cool to have some dogs around sometimes, but it's whatever. It's just how it goes. But it was so surprising to me. It was more so the fact that I didn't know all this time. I've been here for months, and even before coming here, it's just something I didn't know in general, that dogs were not allowed within Muslim culture, within Muslim religion. It was almost hard for me to digest, and it's hard to not accept, but hard to digest that fact after reading that, because very quickly I saw multiple comments about it, and it just took me by surprise. It didn't surprise me after I thought about it for a moment and realized, okay, yeah, it makes sense from a Muslim perspective of like cleanliness. It really does. And so, of course you cannot have dogs, right? But I never thought about it. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense now why I go to all these parks and I never once see a dog. I'm sure there's dogs in Malaysia. I'm sure there are non-Muslims who own dogs here. I don't think it's an issue if you're non-Muslim to have a dog in Malaysia. I think that surely flies, right? I think it's just specifically more about your religion, just like the same as drinking. Like, of course people can drink alcohol here, but if you're Muslim, you can't drink. I think it's the same kind of thing. But yeah, your dog may not chase somebody down the street. Cannot. I guess that wouldn't be a law. If you couldn't have dogs here at all, then they wouldn't have a law about dogs chasing people down. So, okay, yeah, if I wanted a dog here, I could have one, right? That clears that up. But yeah, there you go, folks. Keep your dog on its freaking leash. So the next one is borderline insane. Yes. You may not accept food or drinks before, during, or after voting. So what that means is if you go to vote and you're essentially queuing up to vote, you may not, and someone offers you a croissant or a food or a hamburger, a water bottle, you may not accept it. And if you do, you can be sent to prison for several years and have a hefty fine as well. Let's think about that for a second. Maybe I'm missing something here. But first of all, why are people offering people food and beverages in the voting queue? Anyways, why is that happening? Is that a thing here? Was that an issue to where they needed to put that law into place? And two, why does it matter? Now, the only thing that came to my mind here is if you're going to vote for somebody and someone from the opposing party is like trying to, I don't know, hand people out food and beverages to get them to vote for the other side. Something like that. Well, I don't understand what else could possibly... God, what else could it be? I don't know. But this one is the one that stuck out as like, what the heck is going on here? What is that about, This one, you guys are going to have to chime in. Please let me know in the comments what that's about. I don't know. But that's what it is, yeah. if you're queuing up, somebody offers you some raspberries and you decide to eat one, enjoy life behind bars. Not life, but enjoy your 2 years in a cell for eating a raspberry. What? So this next one will also land you behind bars for 3 months, and that is singing a song in public or singing along to the radio, any song that has any type of sexual connotation or reference. 3 months behind bars. If you are found singing in public and somebody reports you, or somebody reports that it's bothering them or that they heard it, some type of sexual lyrics, you could be in a Grab car, an Uber, a Grab, a taxi, which very oftentimes are playing explicit music, like American music in English, which I'm always very surprised by. I'm always very surprised by this, that I get into the car and there's like a 50-year-old, 60-year-old Malaysian man like listening to music in English that is like explicit, and that is like his own CD or USB playing these songs, either rap or different type of explicit music. I always thought that it makes me really laugh, just because it's like it doesn't add up when you see it, when you look at the person. And I've had multiple times where they even like turn a little bit down. They turn the music down or they turn it off when those words come on. When even like a curse word, the F word, any bad stuff, which I get a little bit, because I used to be a tattoo artist, and I would like to play music when I'm tattooing, several hours, fill the air with some music. And sometimes if something in a playlist would come on and it was rather explicit in nature, I would immediately feel a bit uncomfortable, because I have no idea how my client feels about any of the stuff they're talking about, or I don't know if the client is going to get the wrong idea about me and think like that's how I think, or that maybe this means I'm like a very misogynistic guy because like these rap lyrics are some way. So immediately it would click in my head and I would get a little bit anxious about it. And so when I have these experiences in the taxis, I know exactly what they feel. But this law, specifically, I don't know if that law applies to that. I don't know if them just playing that music could actually go into this, this law as well. I don't know if it applies. But actually singing or reciting the lyrics, that's a problem. That's against the rules. That will land you in jail. It's a serious offense. Again, do I agree with this one? Obviously not. Obviously, growing up in America, this is not the way that we are. As much as some people are very sensitive about certain things, I don't think there's very many people in America who are that sensitive about stuff like this. Maybe some highly religious Catholic people would think like, oh, that's really bad. Like, what are you doing? I don't think very many of them would ever think that somebody should be put behind bars for it. Even so, even if they think like that, even thinking back to like my grandmother, now deceased, rest in peace, Grandma, love you. She was very Catholic, almost saint-like, and like, yeah, you don't want to, the idea of like singing a song with some curse words in it around her, she would really scoff at that. She wouldn't like that. But she would never want to put somebody behind bars for doing it. Interesting one. Definitely an interesting one. But again, makes sense to me. It wasn't something I was so surprised to see. But it is a little bit wild. It's, I think even for Malaysians, I think that most of you folks will agree that, especially the younger generations, right? I think it's also very much a generational thing. Maybe the more older generations will think a little bit more along the lines of like, that's very bad. But yeah, it's the law. This next one, I have to say, I actually agree with, because it's pretty much a flat out scam. And so it almost, to me, falls under the lines of scamming, which is illegal. and that is fortune telling, or being a mystic, a psychic, offering to tell someone's future. This can land you in jail as well here, up to 6 months. Now, I think fortune telling is bogus. It's a bunch of hogwash. I don't believe in it. I think most sane human beings, most reasonable people don't believe in it. It's very silly, right? And obviously the people that make a living out of that, make their career, it's just a scammer. That's their job, is being a scammer. They know they're scamming people. They know they're not telling people's future. And so, yeah, to me, it's like, that should be illegal. That should be something you go to jail for. I think back in New York, there's a bunch of places where, even in like popular areas, where somebody opens up shop with as a psychic, where people can walk in and they tell their fortune, their future. And it's like, you see people walk in there and pay for this. You see it like very commonly. To me, it always was like a bit insane. It was always a bit just out there that people fall for this. But people are so desperate for like answers and to, change their life or change their luck, that they are willing to spend good money to have a random person, maybe wearing a stupid outfit with a crystal ball, tell that, or however they like to do it, tell them their future, read their future. It's so ridiculous. And so this one I agree with completely. This is the one that I agree with more than any of them. Because it just makes sense. If you scam somebody, yeah, you should get in trouble. If you get caught scamming somebody, you should get in trouble. But these people, they do it in plain sight. They're not hiding it. They just go out there as a fortune teller. Very stupid, very stupid. I'm sure most of you can agree with me on this one. But yeah, those are some of the more ridiculous laws here. Some of the weird ones, like I said, from a little bit weird or not that weird to absolutely crazy, right? Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, a little bit different. This one's something different, trying to change up the content, think of some unique ideas. I made some videos recently. One that just absolutely popped off. Malaysia changed my life drastically. That's the title. And I kind of talked about my story about coming to Malaysia and yeah, my whole journey with YouTube. And 99% positive comments, positive response. But like even just a few comments that are like, hey, like this is going to get very boring. You can't do these kind of videos forever. Even though I thought that was quite a unique video, and I never made another video telling that journey. Still, I took it to heart a little bit, and I was like, okay, yeah, I actually do need to vary up the format. I need to make sure I keep varying up the format, bring unique ideas, add some new series regularly, figure out what type of series and content you guys enjoy, and do those every so often. And since I make content every day, it's challenging, but I need to keep it fresh. And so, yeah, I'm going to be doing various series, different types of things. Some are going to be personal, about my life and about my experiences. Some are going to be showing you an area, going to a new place or a tourist destination, and more so showing you that experience. All sorts of things, food sometimes. So yeah, try to change it up. So today, something a little bit different. Drop a thumbs up on the video. I'd appreciate it. It always helps a ton. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel as well. And I will see you in tomorrow's video.